All right, episode 108, Monday, May 20th. We talk baseball with the great Jim Duquette, former Major League Baseball GM for the Mets and Orioles, MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. You can follow him on X at Jim Duquette GM. All brought to you by Flatstick Pub. Whether it's a date night, guys night, ladies night, large event, they've got you covered at Flatstick Pub. Visit flatstickpub.com for one of their 6 locations. Big thanks to Andy Largent and the crew. All right, weekend full of baseball on and off the field for you there, Jim Duquette.
Always. Although a little bad weather. So the team I'm coaching, we got rained out, but the Orioles did not. They were playing the Mariners. Actually got delayed, as you know, well aware that game got delayed forever. Also had a high school graduation, so my youngest got graduated from Loyola here in Baltimore. So yeah, all of those. There's always something going on here with the house, but that was more of an exceptional type of day on Saturday.
Where is the youngest headed off to next?
So she is on the hunt for a job. We'll start probably take a little bit of time off and enjoy yourself, and then start looking into the kind of the health advocacy area, like my son. So yeah, it'll keep her busy. Yeah.
So now we have an empty house.
Well, I mean, as soon as she gets a job, so that could be tomorrow. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. You never know. But she'll stay here for now. And I've always encouraged him, hey, save up a little bit of money, live at home, and then go out. That's what it worked well for my son. He was here for like probably 5-6 months working, and then he had enough to go out on his own. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same with her.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's
fun weekend.
Fun day.
All right, what'd you take away? You got to see the Mariners against the Orioles. What was the takeaway of that 3-game series in which the Orioles were able to take 2 out of 1 or 2 out of 3? I should say.
2 out of 3. Yeah, I mean, listen. The Mariners could have won all 3. They could have won 2 out of 3. Like, to me, when you're looking at a team, especially as good as the Orioles have been, and right now they're second place in the American League East, but you're looking, for the Mariners, how do they stack up against some of the top teams in the league? And I think they stack up favorably. Kirby got knocked around a little bit. Wasn't horrible, but it's unusual for him. There's a great pitchers matchup. Normally in the sport, we get these high expectations for these pitching matchups. Corbin Burns versus George Kirby. It wasn't quite what we had hoped, but if you go in the postseason, and it's not a stretch to think they couldn't see each other again then. Those two guys competing against each other in a postseason game would be must-watch TV. And it was must-watch yesterday, watching them on Sunday. But I think, with the offense, still seeing, too many, lack of contact, lack of consistency overall. But man, oh man, is that rotation so much fun to watch. And they're going to need some bullpen depth, as the season goes on there.
How clearly Baltimore is a better team than Seattle presently. How wide is that gap, you think?
Well, here's the interesting thing. So first off, there's a big difference in how they're put together, the clubs, right? I mean, the Orioles is almost all homegrown. They have impact, but it also was, when you've had, 2017 through 2022, 2021, I would argue they were like top 5 or worst 5 in the sport. That's a long period of time to go through some struggles, right? And then they started to come out of it in 22 and then last year. So the homegrown, and they have impact position player wise. Starting pitching, it doesn't stack up, but the position player group is much better. Bullpen is probably slightly better. The team defense is probably a little bit better. So, do I think that there's a wide gap? I don't. I do think there's a gap of significant portions that can be overcome if the Mariners are going to be aggressive at the deadline, which you almost know that Jerry Dipoto will be. So, and I think, though, the interesting thing from the Orioles side is they're going to be aggressive, and they have the asset capital. That's where their farm system really comes into play. The Mariners have been, building up that system too, and so that will be fascinating. Does Jerry Dipoto, is he willing to give up the type of impact that he might have to get quality position players back in return?
Do you feel that they ultimately could get a little desperate this year and maybe do that just in terms of, it's a long time the regime's been there, and there's always, they've identified this is the window and haven't done it here in the last few years when they've said this is their window.
So
Does it
I
make sense to be the year this year, Jim?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that he will be aggressive. I would have liked to have seen the last 2 years add more. There's that incremental upgrade in there. Okay, I'm going to take from the major league team and add to the major league team, and it is hard to thread the needle and improve in that manner when you make trades at the deadline like that. It should be just more adding, and so just based off of history, I don't think they'll do it. I wish they would. And maybe this is the year they decide to do that, but I don't see it. I think that they are built so strongly on pitching. In the postseason, you can go on a run. As long as you have equally similar depth in the bullpen, and you'll take a starter and probably shove him into the bullpen, so that'll make their bullpen better too. But I think that to me would be very, very curious. Is what type of position player will they add into the mix? And Toronto is one of those teams that is kind of interesting because they are not playing well, and they've got a couple of guys. I'm not saying Vladdy, I'm not saying Bo Bichette, but Justin Turner would be an interesting fit. Guys like that. Maybe I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily bite on Springer right now because he hasn't been swinging the bat well, but they do have some guys there that kind of make you scratch your head a little bit.
And would you agree with this one for anyone that wins the West, whether it's the Mariners, the Rangers, we can get to the Astros because they're playing much better baseball right now.
Yeah.
It is would you agree it's win the AL West or bust?
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't, at least as it looks right now, it's going to be hard to get in through the wild card right now. Now, we can see changes in that overnight, and that happens a lot. We're only at 45 games or so into the season, the 50 game mark. Still a long way to go, but I think you have to go into this planning on winning that division because you're going to take at least the divisional winner in the American League East plus another.
Right.
Probably the same thing in the American League Central, the way it's looking. So you're only looking at one more spot there. Minnesota's certainly good. We'll see. The American League East is looking a little light for me right now. There might be a wild card that comes out of the American League West, but right now, certainly, listen, if the season ended today, there wouldn't be, right? But I do think that there's an outside chance that the third wild card could come out of the West.
All right, where are we? Because we're not quite there to that 50 game mark, but the next time that we're going to speak, we will be at it. Let's say we're there. We're close enough to say we're there. And we've talked many times about where the Mariners are at, what they are deficient in. But if I ask you right now, like, who are they? Like, What are the Seattle Mariners right now? As they said, it's like 47 games into the season.
I think they're a postseason team. I really do. And they have to go into that mindset like, at the deadline like they are, and that's where kind of getting back to what we were saying. How do they become desperate? I don't think they ever kind of operate that way, but I think that they need to be and will be all in to some degree, and they clearly need offense. If they did nothing else, I think they could have a deep run in the postseason if they added another offensive player or two. Now, who is that? That's the hardest part to kind of figure out. Who is it? Do they find outfield help? Do they find an infielder, third base? Where do they kind of upgrade? Is it like first base, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks? Which I think is primarily the spot. And then the question in terms of who might be available, and a guy like Pete Alonso might be somebody that they could jump on because the way the Mets are playing and the way Edwin Diaz is pitching and some of the injuries that they've had, I think he's going to be more likely available than not.
Yeah. You've sat in those rooms, you've orchestrated these trades. What does a Pete Alonso package look like in your opinion?
Well, a lot of that is dependent on, the competition for who else needs a first baseman. So, I would look at Cleveland. They're going to need a first baseman, offensive upgrade. We'll see on Houston, but likely they're going to need an upgrade if they're in it. We know that Seattle will be needing a first baseman. So just off the top of my head, those three teams, the farm systems are such that I think that the Mariners would would have a legit chance. But I think that in terms of a premium prospect like a top two in your organization, you probably don't have to give that up, but it's gonna hurt. Like it's gonna be painful. Top three. Harry Ford is a guy that might be an overpay. Okay, but you might be one of those where you're like, well, to get him, we might be willing to part with him. You hate to do it because you're only renting Alonso for 2 months. I think that's the hardest part
Right, because
about this.
he's a free agent, right?
Gonna be a free agent at the end of the year, and he's gonna cost a lot of money.
What's the okay? You brought up Ford. What's the scuttlebutt with Ford around the league?
Still impactful guy. I haven't seen his numbers this year, so I preface it by saying I saw him at the Futures game. Obviously you like what you see with him. Having an impactful type of catcher position player type is it's hard to find those type of guys. So that it's still the value is still there and high. And I think that the other guy that you could dangle if you didn't want to give up him would be a guy like Hancock or Wu or one of the starters there, because they have that starter's depth, and you can go out and find a back end starter on the free agent market this year. So one of those guys I think would have to be in any type of trade for Alonso. Otherwise, you'll get outbid.
Do you now the agent would? I don't know who's Alonso's agent.
Boris.
Is there anybody that he doesn't have?
Not this year. He got all impactful guys this year. Holy cow.
So there's no way, because sometimes, like, you would advise probably, like, if you pull off that trade, hey, can we get an extension right away? Soon as can we lock him up as soon as we can? That would not be the case with him, because there's no way Boris is going to let him sign anything. He wants him to go to free agency.
Right now, he wants him to go to free agency. Listen, Alonso's off to a bit of a slow start. He's been mostly power, home run driven. Batting average is down again. I think there's more in the tank there. But if his batting average still stays down, you might be able to sign him to a deal before his free agency. And I think the Mets are actually going to try to make a run at him too. They offered him about 158 million, I think it was, which was there's some first baseman comps out there. Freddie Freeman got about 140 million for the Dodgers. Matt Olson got 168 million for the Braves. And Alonso is, right now, without going out there as a free agent, is probably right around where Freeman is, a little bit north of there. I wouldn't do it because, he hasn't looked good. But his agent's looking at numbers, north of 200 million right now.
When you say though, Jimmy hasn't looked at this year, or would this be money not well spent on a guy that do you think he's on the decline?
I don't think he is. I think the hard part is you go into free agency and you see offensive players that struggle, knowing that they have that kind of added pressure of trying to prove themselves. He's handled New York extremely well, and right now I think he's second all time in home runs on all time for the Mets. And if he stayed there on a long term deal, he'd be number one easily. And so there's that kind of pull. For me, I think the Mets have sold and don't appreciate what Alonso is. It's hard to find good players that play well in New York, and he has, and he's embraced it, and the Mets fans love him. And so I think if they let him go, it'd be a mistake. But they're also looking at potentially signing Juan Soto if he's out there in the free agent market too, and that would be a significant upgrade if they went and got him, even though it'd probably be twice or almost three times as much as what it'll cost you for Alonso.
Okay, perfect transition. I mean, it's like you and I work this out.
It's like we did some planning ahead.
Yeah, but we never do any planning. Does what now? He gave permission for again Boris to negotiate with the Yankees, something that initially they were not going to do anything during the season, but he green lighted it. Why did he green light it now? They're with the Yankees for potentially working on a deal.
So, like any free agent that goes out there, if you tell, especially in New York, if you tell them that you're not interested in negotiating, Now all of the attention goes on you, the player, and you're the one that has to answer these questions. And if you go through a slump, hey, do you want to talk now? Like all these things. I think Soto answered it perfectly. Hey, listen, the phone is open. I have no problem negotiating in season, but don't talk to me. Go talk to my agent. You know his number. Pick up the phone and call him. And I think that puts more pressure on the Yankees, I think, and their owner. And if you go back 2 years ago when they signed Judge in the free agent market, right? They made a lowball offer that spring. When I
Sure.
say lowball, by comparison, that was about 210 million, somewhere in that range. He got 360. So in fact, they undersold him by about 150 million bucks. So don't go into this Juan Soto bidding thinking that you're going to undersell him either and make a low ball offer. This number is going to have to start with a 5. It's going to have to be 500 million to get him done before he's a free agent.
It's amazing. You still look, what is he, 24?
25. He plays the whole year at 25, Jason. It's great.
Just unbelievable. He feels like he has been around for 10 years.
Almost.
I mean, it's
At
remarkable.
19, he carried the team, really carried the team to the World Series there, 2019. That was unbelievable. But he was like a first-year player that year, and he was impactful.
Yeah, he's been incredible. What about I came across the note and it was on social media, and you look at the Braves right now, and there's just a lot of complaining about Ronald Acuna struggling, and all of this is true. Matt Olson is scuffling. Austin Riley's not having a good season. Kelnick's on base percentage is at 291, so he's not working. And then you look at them, they lost their best pitcher for the year, but yet they are 10 games over 500. How are they doing this, and can they sustain it?
I think they can sustain it. They're, I think, 2 back in the loss column behind Philly, but they haven't played it as many games, so about 5.5 back because they got to make up a bunch of games. But their rotation is kind of middle of the pack, maybe a little better than that, because of the injury to Strider. But it's I think going to be fine. Their bullpen's going to be fine. Their offense, you can't keep that offense down this long. The Mariners caught them at a great time. Then they went on to the Dodgers. They struggled against the Dodgers for 2 of those 3 games. And so, I think the key for them is getting Acuna on track. Olsen, has been hit or miss, but Acuna's MVP from last year, and his OPS right now is under 700. So I think that's so unusual for him. I think he's poised to break out. And, when he does, they'll put up those numbers again. I'm a little surprised where they are. They're like, 19th? I think they're 19th in the league in runs scored. I was just doing a comparison between the Texas Rangers, who also are really good offense. They're 10th best, and it seems like it's been a big struggle for them by comparison to last year. In the Braves, those are the 2, I would say, underachieving offenses just based on what they did last year.
Are the Astros getting healthy and playing better at the right time? They're 9-2 in their last 11 games. Now, I know one of it was against Oakland, or one series was against Oakland in there, but they just took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee. They are only as bad as they have played, Jim.
Yeah.
Of all the injuries, they look up at the American League West right now and go, we're 4 games out.
It's amazing where they are despite their struggles. And I think that's the scary part about it. We know, as the season goes on, they get better. They're starting to finally get healthy. And so, I think with Verlander now back and Christian Javier now is back and Valdez, like you said, when they take 2 or 3 from Milwaukee, that gets my attention. So it's interesting because Minnesota was struggling. They took on the White Sox earlier in that streak that they had, and they pounded the White Sox. That got them on track where they went, I think, 12 in a row. Houston had to pound on Oakland, who Oakland's better this year, but Houston's owned Oakland over the years. And that seemed to catapulted the Astros. Just sometimes the timing of this is always, I find it interesting to me how, weak teams that aren't playing well, when they play against weak teams, if they get them at the right time, that can be that impetus that kind of pushes them forward and gets them on a roll. And that's what it looks like with Houston.
And they just have that championship DNA, right? And they've been there for so long. It's been a decade really of dominance for those guys. You have to imagine was there some of the still their core pieces together of that championship run that there is going to be this desire and want to be aggressive at the deadline with an ownership group and a front office that says that this is the standard of Astros baseball, that you would circle them as probably one of the more aggressive teams at the deadline.
Yeah, yeah, and their willingness to kind of adapt and use some of their prospects, or they can also take on money. They have, that's the beauty of some of these kind of larger revenue teams, and Jim Crane has acted like that, their owner, for a long time. Is like last year he gave up prospects and took on Verlander, and the Mets paid down most of his salary. Like, he's willing to do that type, or he's willing to, I'll take all of the salary. I'm not going to give up as much prospects. They have that flexibility to do one or the other. And so, yeah, and the owner actually said, "Hey, we are in this window as long as I'm owning this team. We are not in a rebuild." You got to appreciate that thought process and mindset.
What did they do with Kyle Tucker? He has one more year of arbitration, and then he's a free agent.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, I think this, but Bregman's a free agent at the end of the year. Okay, if they're out of it, I think they trade him. But they have shown, if you go looking at what they did with Correa, Springer, they kept Altuve, but the other guys, Verlander, they're not afraid to have them at the last year of their deal, keep them, get a draft pick out of it, once they go out there on the free agent market. So I think that's what they'll do with Tucker. Framber Valdez is in that same boat as Tucker too. He's a free agent the same year too. So I think they'll try to sign one of them. I think if they get one, it'd probably be Valdez, is my guess. And Tucker, it gets too expensive for them. We'll see.
Shota Imanaga, how much has he surprised you? How stunned are you that he's been this good? Not that he would be good, because he had the resume from Japan, but he has an ERA of, what is it, 0.84? This is ridiculous.
It's the best start, I think, ever for a pitcher. Like Fernando Valenzuela and he were neck and neck, and he just passed Valenzuela for the first, I think, 8 or 9 starts of a career. I think what's surprising is the whole industry, didn't have him on the radar to the point where the Cubs got him for, I think it was 4 years, $53 million. That's a bargain when you look at it, and there's no other teams that were willing to go north of that. Like, and I know some teams thought he'd be, prone to the long ball because he does pitch up in the zone with a fastball, but he got a good fastball and split combination with a breaking ball. And, it reminds me a little bit of like a Jordan Montgomery. And he has exceeded my expectation. They loved him in spring training, but you couldn't have predicted this type of production and success. And I said this in spring, if he pitched to a mid-3 ERA, he'd be happy as anything. But he's been pitching way better than that.
Paul Skeens got his first win over the weekend. In his last start, he goes 6 innings. He struck out 11.
And no hits, no hitter through 6. And it's the same team. Listen, he faced the Cubs 6 days ago. So usually that next start is a really difficult one, but he's just shoved. And what was amazing is he was throwing he threw 100 pitches. On the 100th pitch, he threw 100 miles an hour. He still had plenty left. Like, that's the kind of arm that they have there. And they have this other kid, Jared Jones, who doesn't get attention now because of Skeens, but when they have him back to back, that is a tough 2-game set. If you're an offense, man, they are just dealing.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. Good for baseball. Got a good personality. You love the Pirates. Pirates just got one of those old school, the Buccos, old school baseball team organization with so much success, but have kind of been dormant for so long. And I like seeing teams like this who come back up, right? Who have the excitement of a fan base. So it's really cool to watch. In your neck of the woods, you do work for the Mets broadcast. What is going on with former Mariner closer Edwin Diaz?
Yeah, remember the first year of that trade, Diaz came over and he really struggled as a closer, in that first year. And that he didn't build up enough successful capital. The Mets fans were all over him. They booed him off the mound. It was rough. And I wondered if they kind of chewed him up and spit him out, right? And then the next year, 2020, there was no fans and he really pitched well, and he just got his footing. We haven't seen the struggles like this since 19, and I think there's a little bit of everything you've seen. The drop in velocity right now in the fastball. I think there's something mechanical that's going on there. But the slider has had that kind of lack of bite, and he's already given up 3 home runs in that slider. I think 2 years ago when he was healthy, I don't think he gave up a home run on it.
Hmm.
So he's getting beat on the slider too, and it's just something that they took him out of the closer role for now, but he'll be back in it quickly. I think it's just a matter of time. I'll tell you this: after the Saturday game, we blew a 4-run lead. He broke down, and started crying in the clubhouse after he had met with the media, and it just tells you kind of the human element of it. You feel bad for that guy.
Well, you know what? I think a lot of fans don't realize, and even people in the media, it's just they don't. I have a buddy of mine who covers the Mariners for the Seattle Times, Ryan Divish, and he says this all the time. It's a great point. They don't want to be embarrassed.
Right. That's right.
These professional ball players, they want to go out there and perform because they don't want to be embarrassed. And so you see something like that on Saturday, and because he doesn't want to let the team down, he doesn't want to let himself down.
Right. Yeah, he's a great teammate. He'll do anything for you, and he's just lost his confidence. And because of that, like you said, he feels it more that he let the team down, and he's getting paid a lot of money to do that, to pitch well, and he's not right now. And so I think he's a little bit lost on what to do about it too. I think that's probably a part of it too. They're like, Jesus, I've never struggled like this, and how do I get out of it type deal, but. Just a matter of, I think, getting his slider, the bite to that slider back, which usually is a mechanical issue in his delivery.
Last week we talked about club baseball coaches at the 10-year-old level wearing full uniforms
Yes.
games, and then it led us to you asking the question, what's the ruling on an adult bringing a glove to the game? Now we tabled it for this week.
Yep.
So what age are we talking about? Over what? Is it 18 or is there another threshold, an age for you? I have one in mind, and I'll give it to you in a second. But what about
Okay. Well, I feel like that age up to about college level, you might be able to get away with it. College, if you go with a bunch of college buddies and you're carrying a glove and they're not, they are all over you. So it's just you might want to, but you're better off not. So I feel like that's where the line is for me.
good?
Unless here's where it flips. You're an adult and you're with a young kid and you're in an area where you need to be protective. And this is before the netting went up on either side. So you can get some line drives into the crowd if you're first base or third base side, and you need to protect your family. Like you bring a glove, you bring whatever you want. But right now with the netting the way it is, I'm not so sure you need a glove to protect your kids anymore. Unless you're out in the outfield, and in the outfield you got some time to catch it or dodge it if need be out there. What do you have?
25.
25. Okay.
25 is glove and jersey.
Okay. Yeah, the jersey with your own name on it. Like if you have a jersey
That's
with
never
somebody else's, but jersey with your own name on it, no.
no. If you want to wear a jersey, let's have the name of the guy on the jersey,
Right.
not your own name. Why does someone put their own name on it? What's the point?
For what? For what reason? When you see that a decent amount, like, wait a minute, come on.
Who are you trying to fool? Are you trying to fool someone like you played or you played on the team?
Right. You're looking at the back of the name on the back of the uniform. You go, wait a minute. That's not a former Met. That's you.
Yeah. So the glove thing, I see where you're coming from to make the exception if you've got like an infant and you're at a spot and you're like, well, if the ball comes, I need the glove to get out of the way. But yeah, the adult that's sitting out there in right field with the glove, just leave it at home. There's your days are over. Your kid can bring a glove.
Yes.
The kid should always bring gloves.
Always.
And a pen to sign things. You know what? Now you got me started down this because we go to a lot of baseball games with my son, and we always try to get there early. Yeah. Baseball, and maybe I'm just picking on the Mariners here for a second because I remember we went to Wrigley a couple years ago. It wasn't like this, but I don't know how other ballparks are. Baseball during BP, we need to do a better job of opening up these gates earlier for kids, especially during BP.
Yeah.
So they can get in there and watch it, especially the home team. Two, I don't know if they can just take the netting down during BP. I don't know if that probably not going to be safe, but like that netting, which most ballparks have, creates this barrier now between the player and the kid because they can use that netting as, I can't come over there because there's a netting there.
Right.
So you see less frequent visits between players and kids, and that's really
Yeah.
what it can be about.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Less interaction there. And spring training is the best time for that.
Correct.
But even like you said, during the season, they should be able to have a moment and where there's interaction between the fans. I always used to think that at home you could flip the visitors in the home, put the home team hit in the visitors spot when the gates are open and the fans are there and they can see their guys.
Yes.
But then your own team is like they're complaining that they don't have enough time from the end of batting practice to the start of the game to get ready.
But we've never, like my kids, never seen the Mariners take BP.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you see them on the road, which is not easy to do, you never see them take batting practice. So yeah, to me, I'd love to see it flip. Even if it was like maybe you pick a day. Maybe it's like, hey, any Saturday game, we're flip flop the batting practice. Something you could do something like that.
Okay, where are we at? Okay, we did kid. Now I'll tell you the thing that bothers me the most. Okay, and we can wrap it up with this. There is a special place in hell that I keep adults who push kids away from getting autographs, and also the adult that has the album,
Yeah.
the photo album that has that they bring that they need to get in front and just to get the autograph.
Yeah.
And pushing kids away. Nothing gets this guy right here. I'm pointing at myself more irate than that. And I start policing it for all of the kids.
Oh, good.
And I've even reached out to the Mariners sarcastically saying, you can hire me for free. I will sit down there at third base and first base and make sure, and I'll police it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some fans that get really belligerent about it because they're making money on it, and that's the problem. Like I'll tell you, going to the visiting team hotels, and there are fans out there. They dress up with the uniform of the team that's in town, and they change it out for the new team.
Yeah.
Oh, here come the Yankees. Oh, they're wearing their Yankee gear, and then here come the Red Sox. They're wearing the Red Sox gear, like they're supposed Red Sox fans. The players know. Like they recognize guys, they're like, hey, I saw you, I know who you are. I'm not signing your stuff. Like they go that far. So I'm with you on that. I even go this far. I've caught several foul balls, and I caught one in this spring training, and I give it to a kid every time because they're, I don't need them. Like, what am I going to do with a foul ball? Like, I don't, it just doesn't.
Kids love it, and kids like the foul ball.
The kids go crazy. They go crazy. It's like a gold. It's like a gold bar for a kid, right? So
yeah, they love it.
You got to give it up.
There he is, the great Jim Duquette, former MLB GM, Mets and Orioles, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM. Follow him on X at Jim Duquette GM. All brought to you by Flatstick Pub. Check out one of their great 6 locations in the area, flatstickpub.com. And you can hear him every Monday here at pucksports.com. We'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, see you.